Good morning. The Q1 Legacy Playoffs is finally here, and as always, we are playing the Epic Storm. So, this list might look a little bit different if you haven't been following very, very closely in recent weeks. So, one thing you'll note, we're going to start from the left and work our way over. So, one thing you'll notice is we're back up to 14 lands. For a solid month or two, we were trying 13 lands with 2 Mox Opals, which is absolutely fine. It's not a big deal. It's still pretty good. So, over the last few weeks, Ant has done pretty good job at winning events. It's crushed a few at the hands of two of my very good friends. Most recently, Keith Blackwell and Brandon Osborne. They both recently crushed the Legacy Classic at SCG Philly. So, as a combat to that, these Dragon Stompy decks have been picking up, and more prison decks in general have been picking up. So that made me want a 14th land, but also Delver's on the rise again. But also these blue-red Delver decks running Wasteland. So Wasteland is seeing more play than ever. Paired with all these Stompy decks, I just really wanted a 14th land. And a touch more consistency. Mox Opal's still pretty good, but it's probably better in more combo metagames. So we're going to run 1 Opal instead of 2. Our standard 12 artifacts. Moving now to this column, 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder, fairly common. Thoughtseize, it's been the go-to ever since the banning of Gitaxian Probe. And then Cabal Therapy, while speaking of Gitaxian Probe, has found its way back into our list. So these have been duress for the last year or so. And recently, due to my friends doing well on the Ant side of the things, they've been running a couple copies of Cabal Therapy, which inspired me to try it again. And the power level of Cabal Therapy hasn't gone unnoticed when I've been testing it. It makes the deck feel more powerful, especially when we're running 4 copies of Empty the Warrens. So I've won a ton of games just naming the right card and then flashing back and whatever. So even if you name the wrong card and have Empty the Warrens, it's still insane. Uh, I wouldn't recommend it if you're not feeling comfortable in your abilities to name the right card or come close to naming the right card. It's really a skill intensive card. I feel comfortable doing it, but even I miss. So it's fine to run Duress there. If you are feeling a little bit uncomfortable, I would run 2 copies of Duress and then 1 Cabal Therapy. The reason why is you can still Infernal Tutor for a singleton Cabal Therapy. And this is why Burning Wish has Cabal Therapy in the board. So that way, post empty, you can search up these 1-ofs. So if you're not feeling confident in this many Cabal Therapy, I would run 2 Duress, 1 Cabal Therapy. And then we have 4 Dark Ritual and 4 Rite of Flame. Alright, so we have the 8 standard tutors, Empty the Warrens, and Ad Nauseam. In an effort to make room in our sideboard this week, we tested 2 main deck empties. I do it a couple times a year, thinking maybe this time will be different. It never is. I just don't like 2 main deck empties. I did it in the Open I won last year in May, but I just don't like it. It makes me lose faith in my Ad Nauseams very quickly. And I don't want that. I want my Ad Nauseams to make me feel like I'm going to win the game. Alright, so Tormod's Crypt. I actually was pretty close to cutting this card last night, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So Tormod's Crypt, Arclight Phoenix, Reanimator, Ant. Those are the big 3, and then you have secondary decks like Dredge. Hope of Girper, pretty standard at this point, are Echoing Truths. This went down from 4 to 3. Basically, we felt like we were overboarding a little bit, and in a lot of matchups where you want to be bringing in Echoing Truth, you could also be bringing in the Empties or the Cabal Therapy. So we're just going to try to fly by on 3. We understand that Prison's at an all-time high, but we felt like we were overboarding and maybe 4 was too many. Our 3 copies of Empty, pretty standard. You can try 2, but every time I try cutting or skimming an Empty, it makes me feel bad, and I end up missing them, so I just don't do it. Cabal Therapy, we mentioned, this is to get with Burning Wish, but the biggest reason why is there's no copy of Past in Flames. So Past in Flames is a very, very good Magic card. And you see our friends playing Ant always talk about how insane Past in Flames is. It is in the right deck. The Epic Storm is not the right deck. AJ Kerrigan's been preaching it for years. I'm only just starting to listen. He's a very, very wise man. So our deck isn't built to abuse Past in Flames correctly. And I don't think I've missed it since I've cut it, and I've played over 100 matches. So typically with Past in Flames, you have to do a lot of work in order to get it to be good, especially now that we don't have Gitaxian Probe anymore. And usually, with if you're winning with Past in Flames, you could probably Dark Petition for Ad Nauseum or Dark Petition for Empty, and it's just not what we want to be doing. Our deck isn't built to abuse it, so I'd rather have a Cabal Therapy here for the control decks. So if you cut the therapy, it gets really awkward. Or let's say you cut a Duress that's there, it doesn't matter, as long as it's the discard spell. So if you cut this, you have nothing good to wish against control decks, assuming that Empty's dead at the time. So Miracles or uh, Delver or Grixis Control. If Empty's not good at that moment, you just have nothing. So I would not recommend. Grape Shot, pretty standard. I've actually killed a lot of people with it over the last few days, so I can't see myself cutting it. Tendrils, obviously. Petition and Pulverize, we mentioned the Prison deck. So I spent a lot of time thinking. I mean, I was up until 1:30 a.m. last night. It's currently 10:50. If I could play 16th card this weekend, I was going to run Pulverize. Or not Pulverize, Telemann Performance. So with all the Ant running around and Black Red Reanimator, I played 35 matches yesterday preparing for this event today. I faced Ant or Red Black 7 times. So I really, really wanted to run a Telemann Performance today, but I had to do it. In order to make it fit, I had to cut a Tormod script, and I think I'd rather have Tormod script in my deck than a Telemann Performance. I think I'll get a little bit more use out of the Tormod script over a large event. So this is the 75 we're running. I don't have a deck list number for this yet, but if we do well today, I could see this list becoming the stock. I ran this for most of my leagues yesterday. I am in love with this list. It's super good. It's super powerful, but it is very skill intensive. So if you're not liking 4 therapies, I would do the 2 and 2, but I like this. I think this list is very, very, very good. So the event is going to start in a few minutes. I'd like a few minutes to prepare, so stay tuned, and hopefully we crush today.